Hello, and welcome to Puppet and Virtualization. Now, this is an exciting topic for me, because here we get to install or review, or both, Puppet installations on virtual hardware. By the end of this section, you will have knowledge and an appreciation for how Puppet works in a virtual environment. I have this section broken down into 4 topics. In this topic, I'll show you how you can spin up a QuickStart Puppet topology in AWS or Amazon Web Services, as you already probably know. Now next, we will effectively do the same thing in DigitalOcean, a new cloud provider, or an additional one depending on how you look at it. We will then move on to our study on Puppet issues in VMware, and then lastly, I'll show you how we can use Puppet in the ever-popular Oracle VirtualBox. Let's get busy with spinning up a Puppet master using the Quick Start Guide in Amazon Web Services. We're going to move along now and continue with the nuts and bolts of Puppet. Now, as I stated earlier, there's not really one way to install Puppet. It's not like you just download and configure it. Now, of course, it's more complicated than that. It always is. But the first step is to configure your Puppet master. Now, the Puppet master controls and enforces the configuration of all the servers in your topology that are running the Puppet agent. Now, the functionality of the master agent is very important, and we'll discuss it as we go, rather than just in one spot in this course. Now, the AWS Puppet Quick Start is for users like you that are looking to move to AWS, or perhaps are already running their systems in AWS, and also want to deploy and manage your own Puppet master infrastructure topology. Now, the goal of the Quick Start or the install is to help you get started with Puppet on the AWS. Now, in my experiences, this is not really a full-blown production topology, but it's really, really close, and it's enough to get you started. Now, even if you have no experience with Puppet or little experience with Puppet, it's a very worthy exercise. Now, the Quick Start automates the launch of the Puppet master and performs the initial server setup and creates, for your enjoyment, both Linux and Windows-based Puppet agents within a virtual private cloud. Now, you can follow the Amazon documentation to learn how to apply the configuration of the Puppet agents and install a basic web server. And you can do these commands by scratch if you want, but Amazon kind of automates it for you. Now, the documentation will show you the benefits of automating the software installation and the configuration, and will give you a helping hand and help you understand how to ensure that your system settings are repeatable, consistent, and are always in the desired state. It's a very, very good tutorial. Like I said, it's not completely a production system, but it's very close. The Quick Start Guide is a great place to start, and it is a free install of Puppet. Just know that the version supported by the AWS and indeed other cloud providers may not be the most current version of Puppet. This may be looked at as somewhat of a bummer, but actually this is kind of expected, where the cloud providers are a little bit behind on the versions. So let's log into AWS and install a Puppet master. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can from scratch boot up an instance of Puppet master. We're going to use Amazon Web Services EC2 to do so. There's some pre-made templates that we can use that'll easily help us boot up an instance of Puppet master. Now, there's different options you can use, but EC2 is an easy way that we're going to use in this demonstration. So the first thing that you need to do, if you don't already have an Amazon Web Services account, you need to create one. Now, I'm bringing you here to the aws.amazon.com site. Now, here what you can do is you could go and create an account if you don't already have one. Now, it's kind of intuitive how to do so, so we're just going to log in to my existing account, and I'm going to show you the steps and how we can boot up an instance of Puppet master. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to log in to my AWS account. Now we're going to use CloudFormation and EC2 as our tools to boot up a version of Puppet master. First, what I want to do is kind of go over CloudFormation and then go over EC2. Now we have to create a key pair. We need a key pair because eventually we're going to need to log in to our Puppet master instance and our Puppet agent instance. And if you don't already have a key pair, you need to create one. So I already have a key pair created that I can use if I want, but I'm going to create a new one just for the sake and the purpose of this video. So I'm going to click on key pairs, and you're going to see that I have an existing one, but just for the sake of this video, I'm going to create a new key pair. We can also import one, we can delete key pairs, you can even create one outside of Amazon if you want to. But in this case, I'm going to create a key pair in Amazon and then download it. And I'm going to call this guy Puppet Key Pair and then click on Create. Now if you wait a second, we should get our PEM file downloaded, and you see that on our lower left hand side. So what you need to do is take this file and save it in a safe spot. And that's what you see here. What I did is I put it on my C drive and I put it in a folder called Puppet and Key. So you need to remember exactly where this key file is, because we're going to need to get back to it sooner or later to log on to our instance. Now the next step is to log on to QuickStart, and we can use a QuickStart template to boot up an instance of Puppet Master. So if you could navigate to this URL, aws.amazon.com, QuickStart, and I'll show you the template that you can use. So if you want, you can put this in the hard way, or you can use the existing template. Now let's go through QuickStarts. If you kind of scroll down for AWS QuickStarts, is I can show you some of the pre-made templates that we can use. Now, not surprisingly, we're going to use Puppet that you see kind of underneath DevOps, a little bit to the left. The fourth one from the left, you'll see Puppet. So we're going to navigate to Puppet and then go to View Guide or to learn more. In this case, we're going to go to View Guide. Now, this is what I suggest you do. There's multiple guides on the internet that you can use. I always suggest that you go to AWS and get the most current one, because these things are updated all the time. And if you use some other sense of navigation to get to it, you may be using an old QuickStart guide. So always make sure you get the most current one, like you see here, right from AWS. Now we can either view the template or we can launch the QuickStart guide. Now if you launch the QuickStart guide, automatically AWS will get the template for you, so you don't have to search for it. Like I mentioned previously, you can search for it if you like. It's going to take a little bit, of time and imagination to find it. Or what you can do is you can just click on Launch QuickStart, and you could have AWS just get the template for you. And this is what it looks like. If you navigate down under Select Template, you're going to see the radio button where it says Specify a Amazon S3 template URL. What happened is Amazon got the Puppet template for you to use. That just saves you the time in actually locating it. You could have located it yourself if you wanted to. This just makes it easier. So if you click on Next, you're going to get the Puppet stack, which is going to give you the Puppet Master and 2 Puppet agents. You're going to get a Windows agent and a Linux agent. More on that a little bit later. So I'm going to change my stack name to something a little bit more meaningful. I'm going to put in my initials and an underscore so I can just look at my initials and know this is the Puppet stack that I created. And I need to put in a key pair. Now this is the key pair that we specified earlier, where we need to actually eventually connect to either an agent or a master. Now for the source IP, for the remoting, just put in zeros. This will allow an IP connection from anywhere. For the purposes of this video, that's just fine. We're going to make it as easy as possible, albeit skimp on a little bit of security, just to get a little bit of simplicity. So the rest of this stuff you can leave as the default. The network configuration, the S3 stuff, and just click on Next. So you only need to supply the remote IP address, which is going to be all zeros, and the key pair, and that should be enough. If you just click on Next, you should be able to just wait for Amazon to create your stack for Puppet. Now, as soon as you click on Next, you're going to have to wait about 20 minutes or so to actually build your stack. So what I'm going to do is, rather than wait full 20 minutes, we're going to kind of fast forward a little bit through the video and get to the very end. So that way we just don't watch the status change for 20 minutes or so. But anyway, after you acknowledge that you want to build your Puppet stack, click on Next. And what's going to happen is you're going to watch the status, and the status is going to change while your stack's being created. So you should see a few things happening here. You should see create in progress, create complete, and you could ignore that rollback complete because it's from a previous example that we can just ignore for what we're doing here. But eventually what's going to happen is you're going to have your 3 puppet stack processes, which is going to be your puppet master and 2 puppet agents, be complete. So as long as you're monitoring it and you see create in progress and create complete, you're just fine. Now, as I said previously, this is probably going to take about 20 minutes or so. So just monitor it as it goes. And when you see create complete for all of them, what's happened is you've completed creating your complete puppet stack for the puppet master and for the puppet agent. So in this video, you'll learn how to use Amazon Web Services and EC2 to provision a puppet stack, which includes a puppet master and 2 puppet agents. There you have it. You're well on your way to completing a puppet topology in AWS. The next step would be to build out your agents as you see fit.